since we've been living at our place up here over the last few years, I would drive by this one very particular piece of property. And I never thought that the guy would ever put it up for sale. But the bottom line is he did. And he is willing to entertain offers. But the first hurdle I have to jump is my lovely wife. I don't know if that was the best. I've got to get Cedar on board with this.
Is that a way to make me laugh?
Yeah.
Calling me a hurdle?
Yeah. So we're going to drive down and look at this piece of property. And I'm going to try and convince my wife that this is something worth pursuing. Look, I didn't look at real estate for a long time after we bought this land, but because of how narrow the frontage is on this piece of property, I wouldn't even say I was looking at land. I just kept looking at this one piece of property, again, thinking it would never even be an option for us to consider it. Part of the reason we're a good combo is because you're a pretty good balance to these ideas. So my hope is that while I can see a future, my hope is that you're going to offer the perspective that you always do, which is typically very reasonable and realistic. So that's why we're going to go look at it.
Okay, but I'm also very annoyed that we've moved so many times.
I'm with you.
So
I promise you, if we got that land and we ever moved, it would not be into an unfinished house.
do you understand that like watching you build another house, it would be like absolute torture?
If I'm not under the same pressure to finish this place, like if I had more time and turned it into more of a long-term project, it wouldn't be a stick-framed house. I can tell you that right now.
But you also said that about this house.
I would build a cabin, and it might take me a few years to get it done. That doesn't mean I would stop everything, all the projects we have here. Let's just go look at it. You didn't say no.
You just started the car. It sounds like you don't have an option.
You didn't say no.
Well, I'm not gonna say no, but put your seatbelt on, please.
Hang on, I'm not down the driveway.
How am I supposed to say yes to land when you can't even wear your seatbelt when I tell you to?
If I've lived this long, you gotta have a little faith that I'm gonna live a little longer.
No, it's not fake. You need to
Okay, it's
be cautious and safe.
a little spot I thought would be a decent location for a shop or something, for a cabin or a house someday. It's very similar to what our land looked like when we originally bought it. Here are the turkeys. Is that turkeys?
That's just your brain.
Oh yeah? That's the flutter in my brain. So this is about as far as I've walked around. It's steep like our property, but the biggest thing is it's way wider at the bottom. I would have to come in here with the excavator and hand pick.
Whoa, no.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll make
wrong sentence.
No, we'll do it together. If you want to tag all the trees together, but like, you know, big giant trees that have been here for a long time, I'm going to try and leave them. I'm not going to go as crazy.
The giant ones are the ones you cut down.
So you're hearing what I'm saying anyway. You're listening to me.
Yeah, but will you listen to me when I say don't cut down with trees?
So it's not that much different than our original property. The biggest incentive on this property is the width. So
is this why you hurried and got the blinds done?
Sure.
To brace me?
Of course.
To brace me for something that was happening?
Of course.
That you were thinking about?
Of course. So probably not going to be as fast as the first time.
Well, because you're a lot older than you used to be.
No, I'm not. Easy with the older word.
Well, that was what, 7 years ago? So you're 7 years older and
This
wiser?
is the 7th year, but I spent, by the way, this is the anniversary of our 7 years. And I find it a little ironic that on the anniversary of when we first bought our other land, that he finally responded to us.
7-year itch? Is that what it is?
It could be. I don't know. I don't want to do. I figure I have a window of about another 10 years before it's going to be too physically hard for me to do the stuff that I do. And so if I'm going to do it, that's my thoughts. We would be taking on debt again, or you stay in that house and I build me a cabin and you come and see me.
You already did build yourself a cabin.
Yeah, and that's the other part. I drove to the back of the property. In the back of this property is way more flat land. There's even enough land to do pastures and stuff.
Looks like you could ride the Ranger a little bit more up here too. Four-wheelers, it's not so steep.
It's not so, but it's a mess as usual.
Mm-hmm. So dang beautiful though. It really is. You got me with that part for sure.
Leave the big trees, get rid of everything else, pile up all the old dead and rotting brush. and get this
I
figured
never
out.
said yes. Am I supposed to say yes right this second? Biggest concern is taking on more debt. Don't know if we're wanting to do that. We've worked so hard to get out of it. Did you bring me a little picnic up here? No, nothing?
Just my love. Just all the love in my heart.
Just your love. You're
and just the commitment that I'll do
like,
something with it. I might have to do it.
Sparkling cider and a blanket.
If we buy it, when we close on
we
it,
can celebrate.
then we'll do that.
Wow. So now you have to say yes?
Yeah. I mean,
you've really put some thought into this, haven't you?
Well, the first time I saw it was probably it was a long time ago. The first time I wondered if the guy would sell it was probably a couple of years ago, but I don't know
why you never sleep. Your brain's always going.
Well, that's the one
100 miles an hour.
That's the one problem with our place. Is how narrow the front is. We don't have room for parking. We don't have room for trailers. I have everything just stacked in there because we just don't have room. So let's at least go talk to them and see what they're thinking. So trees like this, obviously I'm not going to touch. There's some gigantic trees. Unfortunately, all those they're all silver maples. That tree right there is probably every bit of 120 years old. That would be one of the original trees, I would bet. There's some huge maples on this property.
I don't want anything down below. I want it covered.
Well, what we have now is we have the experience of the first time to fall back on. And that's probably the biggest motivation behind doing this. Is while I can still do it, I want to do it one more time.
Yeah, well, let's start with the dead stuff before you cut anything down.
You're not in a hurry to cut stuff down.
No, this is a beautiful.
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
But it's also running amok. Look at all the dead. Look at, if a fire came through here, this is all gone.
Start with the dead. Start with the little stuff.
Okay.
Don't jump hurdles to cut down trees.
No cutting down of any trees until you
shake
hands. When's the last time we shook hands?
It's a pleasure doing business with you.
Oh, well, all right.
Should we make you sign a contract?
What kind of contract?
Contract of what needs to be done before you can play.
What has to be done before I'm allowed to go over there?
It doesn't have to. It needs to be done.
Needs to be done. What if I spend 4 days a week on the house until it's done?
What, like Monday through Thursday?
Sure. And spend a day or two on that other property. Just starting to clear, and I know you're really concerned about the trees, and I won't take any big trees out. If you want to make a deal that nothing bigger than about 4 inches or something. You have to understand our scenario is so different than it was the first time. Meaning you would happily be completely satisfied with our place here for the rest of our life, right?
No, just don't cut down so many trees.
Well, that's all this is about?
Finish that. Finish the little things that need to be done on the house before you go play outside.
You make a list. You make a list of the things that I have to get done before I can start messing around with that. We'll talk. I promise we will talk about this every step of the way. I think you just think that I'm just going to show up over there with a chainsaw, like I did the first time. I
probably know you better than anybody on the planet.
Okay.
And I feel like sometimes you need to be told.
You probably came up here maybe 3 or 4 times that first year, and all that I did that first year was clear the land, which would end up being the septic system and things like that. So you didn't see it. I think it was dramatic because every time you came up here, it had dramatically changed. And I think that bothered you when you saw some of those big trees, but I'm not going to do it that way. Anything we take down, we'll talk about. I want the same things that you want. I want big trees across the front, but all of those small little trees that kill each other, I want to get every one of those little trees out of there.
Yeah, I understand that.
If we can get this guy to see the light, if we can convince him that we are the ones, let's go see how it goes. Her biggest concern, I think above and beyond the trees, is taking on the debt again, because we've worked so hard to try and avoid debt. Now we're obviously taking a step backwards a little bit. Cedar knows that I got a bad habit of losing interest in things and starting new projects, but she also knows that with time I get those projects done. So I don't think we would ever sell this place. I just can't imagine ever selling it. We talked about just keeping it and using it for something else if we ever did move over to that other property. But the thing that I didn't have 6 years ago when we first bought our land was perspective. I now have a perspective that's different. If I had understood the challenges that come with hillside living, I may not have bought this property. This property, truthfully, had been for sale for a long, long time. And I don't know that it was the most desirable piece of property. But now that we understand the challenges that come with hillside living, I'm prepared to do this again. And again, this goes back to last week's video when I talked about whether or not you're a subscriber. If you want to keep tabs on what's going on as far as this process is concerned, and if we can get this land purchased, we're then going to start the conversation of inviting people to come up and work with us. The difference again between 6 years ago, the first time I did this, I didn't have cell service up here. I didn't really understand what I was getting into. So I very rarely ever had anybody up here working alongside with me. I know that if we're going to do this, this is the time to do it. I'm not getting any younger. And while I'm not crazy about the debt, there's not too many 40-acre lots around us for sale. I'm going to go sit down with a guy. I'm going to see if we can't get this figured out and hopefully get a real estate contract signed so he can see that we're serious about this. And I've just got to convince Cedar that I'm going to approach this a little bit different than I did the first time.